The vice presidential debate. We have Eric Trump coming up. Kellyanne from the Trump campaign. She's the campaign manager and so much more. But first, look who came on the program. He hasn't been on the program in, what, 5, 10 years?
You've been afraid to let me on.
That's not true. How you doing, Reverend Jackson?
Great. I thought it was a very exciting debate tonight. I thought Kane brought lots of energy, lots of preparation. And
didn't you think he interrupted too much?
Well, he was exuberant, much the way that Trump used as a style. But his content was there, and I thought he did what number two has to do. He defended Hillary. I thought Pence did not defend Trump. He left his back uncovered. He was accused of...
I disagree. Let me ask you this.
Well,
do you think we need higher...
He accused him of not paying his taxes. He didn't try to defend it. When he accused him of investing in Russia and China, he didn't try to defend it. Or his attack on the Mexicans, he didn't try to defend it.
Let me ask you a question. Would you pay more in taxes than you're supposed to?
Well, not necessarily.
No, you would take every legal deduction like Trump does. And by the way, like Hillary Clinton did, you know, last year in 2015, she deducted $700,000.
But that's an unjust law.
That's an unjust law that Hillary followed?
No, the law of Trump not paying tax in 20 years. And why wasn't he exposed?
He paid $100 million in taxes. Hundreds of millions.
We don't know that.
No, we do know that. He actually released a financial statement.
We don't know what he invested in or who invested in him. We just don't know. And see, what I think you should put the Clinton Foundation, the Trump Foundation side by side, tax returns side by side, and make a judgment. Right now, without the full...
Don't you think it's corrupt for Hillary Clinton to take money as Secretary of State? Isn't it a conflict of interest and take money for the Clinton Foundation at the same time?
Well, she didn't, and there's no evidence that she did. That's an accusation.
Well, the AP said that 55% of the people that she let in to see her as Secretary of State, individuals, 55% donated to the Clinton Foundation.
There's no evidence that in those meetings that she broke in the ethical standards, and the Clinton Foundation has a very high acceptable record. Trump's foundation now is under strong legal suspicion because it did not invest in the people.
Let me ask you this. Hillary Clinton says that she cares about women, and that she cares about gays and lesbians, and she believes in religious freedom. She took with her husband for the Clinton Foundation nearly $25 million from Saudi Arabia, a country where women can't drive, women are told how to dress, they're told whether they can go to school or work. She took another $10 million for the Clinton Library. And my question to you is, and they kill gays and lesbians just for being gay and lesbian, and they persecute Christians and Jews. You're a reverend. And my question is, would you take money from a country that kills gays and lesbians, persecutes women, Christians, and Jews?
You have that problem in China, a number of other countries.
No, I'm asking, would you take money from that country? Would you?
I would not be inclined to, but, you know, I think...
So it's wrong that she did?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that there was no connection. She didn't take the money.
On the Clinton Foundation and the Clinton Library did?
It went to the foundation. That did not alter the U.S. relationship with Saudi Arabia. I think that...
Isn't that immoral, though, if you take money from a country that treats women like third-class citizens, kills gay and lesbians, and won't let you build a Christian church or a Jewish temple, you take money from them?
Well, what about if a country take money from America, given how they've treated African-Americans down through history? I mean, that's just not the way the world works, Hannity.
Let me ask about the economy. Let me move on. Since Obama's been president, we now have 12 million more Americans on food stamps, 8 million more Americans in poverty. We have the lowest labor participation rate since the 70s, the worst recovery since the 40s, 51-year low of home ownership rate, and for black Americans now, 58% increase of black Americans since Obama's been president on food stamps, 20% increase black Americans out of the labor force. Can you argue in any way, give me any statistic that shows that black Americans are better off having had Obama as president?
Well, he came in office with 800,000 jobs lost that month. The net gain of jobs every month for 7 years. That is unfinished business. And had there not been such resistance, for example, affordable health care, which was... But
affordable health care, you promised to keep your doctor, your plan, and save $2,500 a year. Families saw a $4,100 increase in the last 8 years.
Well, it can be modified, but there are people who have health care now who never had it before, who were insured, were never insured before.
But the promise wasn't kept.
The resistance also was underestimated. The resistance to his presidency, the headwind, has been an atrocious one. There was no attempt, for example, he put forth a campaign for the fast rail. We could make the steel let the rail drive the cans energy efficient, make us less dependent on foreign oil. It was killed.
But you didn't answer my question. Can you name one economic statistic? I told you since Obama, he's had 8 years, Reverend. 8 years. 60% increase in black Americans on food stamps. Nearly 2 to 1. A higher unemployment rate in the black community, and 20% increase of blacks out of the labor force. Can you name one statistic that black Americans are better off under 8 years of Obama, America's first black president?
Well, I'll tell you what, there are blacks in positions that were never in before. But more than that, Sean, that what I'm concerned about is that the banks with subprime lending schemes got bailed out.
I agree with you here.
People got locked out. And
I agree with you here.
Never got reconstruction.
But you can't give me one statistic.
Not right now. I really can't.
You're going to look it up and come. No, you're going to come back on my show. Now, why do you avoid me? We say, Reverend Jackson, come on the Hannity program.
You avoid me.
You really believe that?
I'm not afraid of you, Hannity.
You're not afraid of me? You
no.
sure? Say that for the audience. Look into the camera and say that.
I'm not afraid of Hannity. I'm ready to take him on.
All right, Reverend. God bless you. Good to see you. All right, earlier, right in the spin room, right after the debate, we talked to Eric Trump, and here's part of that interview. This is Eric Trump. All right, thoughts on the debate?
He did a great job. Mike Pence did an amazing job, and it reinforces the exact reason why my father picked him to be his running mate. I mean, he was poised, he was articulate, he was strong, he was very smart. I mean, I was really proud of him sitting there, and I mean, the amount of comments that we've gotten about how great he was tonight, it was really an unbelievable decision.
One thing I did see, I think, is similar in the first debate with your dad and Hillary Clinton. In this debate, they've got their list of talking points, and they're going to get them in no matter what. Mike Pence seemed to just stand back and say, you're running a pretty negative campaign. Let's stay on substance.
Well, it is. They're going to spend $750 million in negative ads against us, not talking about any of Hillary's 35-year record, but only talking about my father, and I think that's very ironic. They keep on mentioning Russia, and which I also thought was ironic, yet Bill Clinton's given speeches in Russia many times, where he's getting $500,000, $1 million to give a speech. You look at the the Russian nuclear deal, right, where $145 million was paid to the Clinton Foundation from Russia after the U.S. gave 20% of its uranium stockpile to the country. I mean, I just find it so ironic that they kept on bringing up that topic.
You know, I thought we got to more substance tonight. We talked about immigration. We talked about vetting refugees. We talked about the Iranian deal. We talked about the creation of ISIS by the United States pulling out of Iraq and Syria in particular. Is substance better for the campaign?
I think it is, because their track record has been horrible. Look at what's happened in Iraq. Look what's happened in Syria. Look what's happened in Libya. And it's not just that those countries are totally destabilized and a total mess and ISIS is running rampant. It's that the U.S. has spent $6 trillion fighting wars that haven't worked, and we're in a worse off spot now than we ever have been before. We've also lost thousands and thousands of troops, and that's something that was never mentioned before, and it's actually very sad. I mean, the Middle East is a hornet's nest because of failed foreign policy. You know, Russia on the reset button was a total disaster. It obviously led to Crimea, and it led to so many of the situations we see over there. We haven't exerted power as a nation, and it's very sad, and we need tough leadership, and you saw that from the governor tonight.
You know, I think this is really more than any other election in our lifetime, maybe Carter and Reagan, it's a choice election. If you look at saying radical Islam, the Supreme Court didn't get to it a lot tonight, but on building a wall, not building a wall, vetting refugees, not vetting refugees, Obamacare, repealing, replacing, or keeping it, or maybe even doubling down on it, and energy independence. There's really substantive differences. As I watch debates, I feel like, especially on the left, they try to muddy the waters. Do you think that choice is coming clear now with 35 days to go?
Well, there's no question they try and muddy the waters, because what other choice do they have, right? Hillary Clinton's been a politician longer than I've been alive, if you can believe it. And look where
46 years now.
Look where we are as a nation, right? The politicians who created this mess aren't going to be the politicians to fix it. The politicians that created Obamacare and the mess that we have there, right, and have created the $20 trillion worth of debt that we have, and haven't fixed an educational system in this country that's ranked 30th in the world, are not going to be the same people who fix the problem. You know who's going to fix the problem? Somebody who comes in from the outside and can tear Washington apart, and that's exactly what my father will do. And his heart and his soul is in this mission. He's dedicated his life, and he's given up his life to go in and try and better this country, and him and Mike Pence.
There really are. The economy came front and center here, and Hillary does want to raise taxes. kind of doubling down on Obama's agenda. But in the last 8 years, we have 12 million more Americans on food stamps, 8 million more in poverty. You've got the lowest labor participation rate since the 70s, the worst recovery since the 40s, lowest home ownership rate in 50 years. With that said, I guess my real question is, okay, why do they keep acting as though the economy is good? I mean, Kane was saying, well, in the last year, we created this many jobs. I'm like, well, the last 8 years, we have 12 million more Americans on food stamps.
And people don't feel it. People in the United States haven't gotten a raise in 15 years, if you can believe it. They haven't gotten a raise in 15 years. Median incomes have been totally stagnant. Well, the problem with that as well is taxes have gone up, Obamacare premiums have gone up tremendously, utilities, your cost of living in this country has gone up, but people are making the same amount of money as they were 15 years ago. We have 100 million people in this country out of the workforce, right? Since we signed NAFTA,
95 million.
We've lost 1 in 3 manufacturing jobs. They've gone overseas. We no longer have them in our country. I mean, we don't make anything anymore. We don't produce anything anymore. We don't have jobs anymore. These politicians have killed the American dream, and my father wants to bring that back.
I want to go back, because everything you're saying here is substance. Everything that Tim Kaine said tonight had to deal with your father and his personality and what he said or might not have said here and there and everywhere. That seems to be all he wants to debate. What advice do you give your dad? Because obviously that's their strategy.
Well, listen, that is their strategy, and it's very sad that that's their strategy. They can't run on their own track record because their own track record has been, quite frankly, horrible. So that's their strategy, to divert and to move in different directions and to spew out a lot of lies. And there were certainly a lot of lies coming from one side tonight, and that's very, very sad. My father's got to keep going with his message, and it's a message that's spot on. Put America first again. Very simple. Create jobs. Create safety. Fix our educational system. Fix our medical system, which is a total wreck after Obamacare. Start putting America first again. Our president comes off a plane in China 2 weeks ago. They don't even bring a staircase up to Air Force One. They don't even bring a staircase. That's how little respect the rest of the world has for our country. And it's so sad. And I can tell you, my father's president, that respect will absolutely be restored.
I'm proud of where the campaign is right now. You feel victory in 35 days. You're glad it's coming to an end.
There's no question about it. Now,
Mark Halpern behind you, he's not happy because he's got a whole show based on this circus of ours right now.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I watch his show a lot, but I'm incredibly proud of my father. He's done an amazing job. I couldn't be more proud. He's one of my best friends in the world, and Mike did the governor did an amazing job tonight, and I was so proud to sit front and center and represent the family.
All right, Eric, good to see you. Thanks so much. Appreciate it. Thank you so much. All right, a very good night for Donald Trump's running mate, Indiana Governor Mike Pence. Earlier tonight, I spoke with Trump's campaign manager, Kellyanne Conway, and Trump's senior communications advisor, Jason Miller. Take a look. All right, joining us now is Trump campaign manager Kellyanne Conway, communications director Jason Miller. I got to get all you Millers on the campaign straightened out here. One of the things that really just stood out, how annoying Tim Kaine was tonight.
Goodness, it was shocking, even to those who don't really care for him. I mean, Tim Kaine spent all of his time interrupting and actually ignoring the moderator, a female moderator. I'd like to remind the left, who loves to throw around words like sexist and unhinged. But Mike Pence kept his calm, and he was there to talk about issues and substance, and he did that. And I think if personnel is policy, the way Ronald Reagan famously always said, Sean, that we saw tonight that the first execution of judgment and leadership by Donald Trump after he became the Republican nominee was what? To select Mike Pence to run on his ticket as his vice president. And I think tonight you saw the fruits of that.
All right, you're the communications expert here. It's not me. I've only been in radio 30 years, and I'm starting my 21st year at Fox. From a communication standpoint, to constantly interrupt?
It was really bad for Senator Kaine to do this, and I think the calm and even feel that Governor Pence had this evening really allowed the viewers, the people at home, the voters to get a sense of what the message was, and that's what ultimately with our ticket, that's what matters. It's the message, it's Mr. Trump and Governor Pence's message of restoring our economy, protecting our country. That's what came through tonight. The only thing that people saw from Senator Kaine was a lot of interruptions, and I think it looked pretty poor.
One of the things that's very clear from the strategy, just as an outside observer, is they want to dump the kitchen sink and only talk about the kitchen sink of Donald Trump. I think it was the Washington Post that described it as he's trying to put 10 pounds of sand in a 5-pound bag.
Right. Well, and it looked awkward. I mean, I hope that Tim Kaine was promised some kind of fabulous prize every time he vomited out the string of talking points and canned responses.
I wish I said vomited out. Why didn't I pick up on that?
Right. They weren't funny, and and they weren't particularly effective because they were so non-responsive to the question being asked. If you're watching at home, Sean, you saw the actual question that was posed by the moderator and then Tim Kaine's answer, and the two did not meet. At least Mike Pence was there to answer the question. And so, but this has been a strategy all along. What do we talk about every single week together? That our campaign is about issues and their campaign is about us. And if time's running out now, it's a great test in the remaining month, a great test for America. Do you want this election to be about issues and be about you, or do you want it to be about Donald Trump and about the insults that Hillary Clinton and Tim Kaine bring to bear?
But honestly, this is the whole thing. Now, it was interesting from another standpoint, issues that didn't come up in the first debate, vetting refugees, immigration, really digging into this bad Iranian deal, so on and so forth. It seems that on issues, that's where you want to be. That's where the Trump campaign is. Does this wear thin in the next two debates if Hillary continues to regurgitate robotically or vomit out those lines? Yeah.
Well, it does, and I think we do have to cut Tim Kaine a little bit of slack this evening. I mean, I think it's tough for anyone to get up there and try to defend Hillary Clinton's record, to try to defend her on the emails and the FBI, to try to defend her on illegal immigration, to try to defend her on making the world less safe. And that's a tough job, and so I'll cut Senator Kaine just a little bit of slack on that one. But it goes to really what this movement is that Mr. Trump and Governor Pence are leading.
You know, I watched in the first debate, Donald Trump, I thought, answered a few questions he didn't need to answer. The birther question or issues about his taxes. Because, and I thought Governor Pence really highlighted this point. This economy is not good.
That's right.
You've got 12 million more Americans now on food stamps, 8 million more in poverty. And in both debates, Hillary and Senator Kaine make it sound like everything's going great. Where are they living?
Well, they live in their own minds, and in fact, that's exactly my point, that if we will win on the issue set, we have the dynamic, magnetic, compelling messengers plus the issue set, we win. And that's why we're really highly competitive in states like Ohio and Iowa and Florida, these states that, you know, Romney and McCain both lost. Colorado, Donald Trump was there yesterday he was in Colorado. You know, you can't even get into the arena. Today in Arizona, they said people waited outside since yesterday to get to. I say he's like the most successful performer who's never played an instrument in all these venues. Usually you have to come with like a singing voice and a piano or a guitar to pack him in like he does. And the media leads love to say crowds don't matter. Yes, they do, because enthusiasm and momentum matter. And I think what else the pundits are going to say tonight? That's how we know Governor Pence had a great night. They're going to say, the VP debates never really matter. It's not going to move the needle. That's how you know Governor Pence did a great job. Look, in the span of 24 hours, what happened? Hillary Clinton's husband, Bill Clinton, trashed Obamacare, embarrassed her out in the trail. And then her running mate here tonight, I think, delivered a very lackluster, very uneven performance where he just looked like he was unhinged and interrupting.
Add to that?
That one's tough to top, but I mean, you see there can't be that much energy and enthusiasm for Clinton and Kaine coming out of tonight.
It's a choice election. This is now a choice on every big issue of our time. Say radical Islam not. Obamacare, keep it or leave it. Immigration, build the wall, don't bring it. Education, states, or you top down from the federal government. On the economy, raise taxes, cut taxes. Supreme Court, originalist, or judicial activists. These are real choices. 35 days, this country is going to make a very important choice.
It is. And if you want to change, Trump and Pence, that's where it's going to be.
How big?
70% of Americans agree. I mean, 70% of Americans say they want to take the country in a new and different direction. That makes the issue very clear. And I think the other thing we saw tonight is that Mike Pence, even though he's known to be calm and he's known to be low-key, Indiana nice, he was not taking it when Tim Kaine was lying about Donald Trump or lying about Governor Pence. And I think what I liked about Mike Pence tonight is he tapped into what Donald Trump always says is, let's give our voice to the forgotten man and forgotten woman. When he said to Tim Kaine, do you really think things are going well in this country? Do
you really pay more taxes than you're supposed to?
Exactly.
I think we ought to have a drinking game. The drinking game is every single time they regurgitate robotically the attack, I think, all right, you take a shot. The problem is within 10 minutes, we'll all be on the floor.
We stopped counting the interruptions out in the whole. Well, we stopped counting them.
Oh, we montaged them. We have the whole thing. Yeah, we put them all together.
No, but by the way, he was interrupting the moderator, but he was also ignoring her. I want to make that point too, and I want to make that point as a woman because I don't believe in gender politics at all. But boy,
if Donald Trump did it, Mike Pence did it.
Right, that's right. If they had done it, that's all you would hear about. It's all we heard about last week. I think unfairly so. And look, I talked to you last night too. Why is Hillary Clinton at only 53% among women in the new CNN poll? What in the world is holding them?
I have a real last important question, because a lot of people thought, all right, after Judge Curiel, after the Khan issue, why did he go back to Alicia Machado?
He was trying to say that he gave her a second chance, and he felt like he was treated very unfairly, and Hillary Clinton obviously threw that in there at the end, and that he was being attacked. But I will tell you, I always feel Donald Trump is at his best when he's talking about the horrors of Obamacare, when he's talking about building the wall, when he's talking about the Syrian refugee policy, when he's talking about destroying radical Islam, when he's talking about creating jobs, and the trade and immigration access that he has been able to bring to the forefront of the voters' consciousness, Sean. That's what got him to be the nominee, and that's what Americans want to hear. When I go out to the rallies, Jason will tell you, when he starts riffing on repeal and replace Obamacare, defeat people are on their feet. That's what they want to hear, and that's what distinguishes him from the failed policies of Obama Clinton.
That's a good point. All right, guys, good to see you. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Tell the other Miller hi, and thanks, Kellyanne. Good to see you. And coming up, Lisa Booth, Charlie Hurt will join us right here in the spin room to react to tonight's debate, Geraldo Rivera, and much more. Also, Reince Priebus, straight ahead, live from Virginia. Senator Tim Kaine repeatedly interrupting Governor Mike Pence at the vice presidential debate. The RNC now saying Senator Kaine did that over 70 times earlier tonight. Here with reaction from the Washington Times, Charlie Hurt, and Washington Examiner contributor Lisa Booth. All right. 70 times, I couldn't take it. It's like I literally screamed at the TV at one point, shut up. Did you have the same feeling?
Yeah, it was almost like, the Clinton campaign kind of set him out, over-prepared him, sent him out, and he was just so eager to get in there, and he
regurgitate his robotic lines. You know what's interesting? Because that's what Hillary did.
Yeah.
Now he's done it. What, 2 more debates we're going to have to hear this and not hear about the economy or anything substantive?
But the problem for Senator Kaine, by doing that, he came across as a petulant child, and Governor Pence came across as the adult in the room. And Governor Pence had a perfect debate tonight. He did exactly what he needed to do, was to defend Donald Trump, but also to lay out the indictment of Hillary Clinton. He did that. He brought up the private email server. He brought up the Clinton Foundation. And what he did, which was the most important thing that he did, was draw the contrast between saying, I'm a governor from Indiana. Donald Trump is a business guy. These are politicians. That contrast was perfect.
But think about what does a good businessman do all the time? They hire great people. Look at the people. Look at Governor Pence tonight, or look at Rudy Giuliani around him, or look at Newt Gingrich around him, or look at, I disagree with Chris Christie on some things, but you know what I mean.
And that first hire is Governor Pence,
right?
And it reflects very well on him. And I also thought that Tim Kaine, he truly strained credulity when with the litany of things about the trying to take these foreign policy failures like Benghazi, like the Iran deal, and tried to turn them around almost like
positives.
Yeah, and then blaming Trump for them.
What universe is he living in? Like, the economy's good. Oh, we created X number of jobs in the last 2 days, but don't worry, everything's great.
And that sticks with people, because they may not pay attention to it like in a conscious way, but they do. This guy's full of it.
Well, and Governor Pence asked Senator Kaine, when he was talking about how the economy is allegedly so great, he asked him something along the lines of, "Is it?" Do you remember that?
That was good.
Commentary in the Bay, which was
really?
smart.
Is that
because,
good?
Yeah, and then Kaine
and you
said,
paid more in taxes than you're supposed to.
Right.
Yeah, how many Americans do that?
No wonder the economy is so bad.
You got to wake up if you're a liberal in the morning and say, "Gee, I need to pay more." Okay. All right, guys. Good to see you. And when we come back, more reaction to tonight's vice presidential debate. Monica Crowley, Doug Schoen, Larry Elder, they're here next. That and Reince Priebus as we continue from the spin room here at Longwood University. We'll continue. From tonight's VP debate, joining us now, Salem radio nationally syndicated talk show host Larry Elder, Fox News contributor Monica Crowley, former Clinton pollster, Fox News contributor Doug Schoen. Doug, here's what I'm thinking. Now it's like the robotic lines have been regurgitated now for 2 debates.
Sure.
Do they go away now? I mean, are people going to get sick of hearing that?
I think you're going to hear more of it, Sean. Look, Hillary's lead has grown marginally.
Why get rid of it?
You're not going to get, because Donald Trump took the bait. Tim Kaine was there just to create as many problems for Mike Pence as possible. It may not have been elegant, and I think Pence won the debate, but Kaine did what he was trained and set out to do, and you will see the same performance with a little empathy thrown in on Sunday night, because it's a town hall from Secretary Clinton.
What do you think, Monica?
Well, I think that Governor Pence's dominant performance tonight, Sean, has the potential to reset this campaign. Maybe not dramatically, but maybe just enough to get undecided voters or perhaps voters that might be a little uneasy with the Trump-Pence ticket to take a second look. What Mike Pence did tonight was essentially prosecute the case against both Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton in terms of their policies and their record. He also, in terms of his demeanor, was calm and rational and therefore reassuring to a lot of these voters. Remember, Sean, that debates are less about policy nuance than they are about style.
Guys, we appreciate it. Wish we had more time. Thank you all for being with us. When we come back, Geraldo Rivera, Sheriff David Clark, they're here next as we continue live from Virginia. Straight ahead.
For leadership.
All right, another key moment from tonight's vice presidential debate between Governor Mike Pence and Senator Tim Kaine. Joining us now with reaction, Milwaukee County Sheriff David Clark, Fox News senior correspondent Geraldo Rivera. All right, Geraldo, let's start with you. You're a hard critic. Anything Trump, you've been annoying lately. So I'll start with you tonight.
I think that's inaccurate, but let me just say that my overview is it was a pleasure watching two decent, patriotic, God-fearing Americans go at it, both of whom, very importantly, are the fathers of serving United States Marines, and thinking how different this campaign would be if these were the two figures at the top of both the respective tickets. The ratings would be lower, but I think you'd have
lunatic. He needs to lay off the caffeine and maybe go to the decaf. I thought we were going to have a Howard Dean moment for a moment there. But, you know, he mentioned a couple things I think are worth talking about. One is that Kaine said that he criticized Donald Trump for saying African Americans live in hell. I said that before Donald Trump did. I said the American ghetto is a hellhole unless Mrs. Bill Clinton and Senator Kaine think it's okay for blacks to live in entrenched poverty with failing schools, inadequate housing, and crime-infested neighborhoods. He also mentioned about community policing. Community policing will not work where you have an entrenched underclass that is culturally dysfunctional, because it's a two-way street, and you can't just have a one-sided effort by the police. So there's a number of things where Tim Kaine doesn't understand policing that I think Donald Trump and Governor Pence do.
I don't think he understands policing. I don't think he understands the economy. I don't think he understands the need to vet refugees. I don't think he understands the need for border security.
In this town, Harlem is not a hellhole. I got news for you. There are beautiful brownstones there. There is a striving middle class. There's new restaurants opening all the time. To generalize like that and to call that
Geraldo, you're being unfair to Sheriff Clark. He's saying that there are certain neighborhoods that have been neglected. Look at Chicago. Come on.
Well, there in the Chicago situation with all of these homicides and all the violent shooting, these are definitely, Chicago has a problem that New York doesn't. There are pockets of real gang violence where guns are everywhere, and where stop and frisk. Let me give the sheriff. Where stop and frisk would be appropriate. Stop and frisk. And let me agree with Governor Pence. Stop and frisk is not inherently.
With all due respect, Geraldo, unlike you, I'm at ground level in the American ghetto in Milwaukee every day. So, you know, what you ought to do is come with me, spend a week with me, not a couple hours, do a ride along with me just to Milwaukee, and then I'll take you 80 miles away down to Chicago, where I go frequently, and I'll show you a different part of the American ghetto. And again, that's that part we don't want to talk about. You want to talk about the areas that have been revitalized.
Can't generalize
that
about
is not
black
where
people like that. You can't, Sheriff. It's unfair. It ignores
Why don't you take the ride?
What's unfair, Geraldo, is for you to think it's okay for a growing number of people to live in these hellholes called the American ghetto. It's not.
We got a break. All right, guys, I'll go on the ride along with both of you. All right, thank you both. When we come back, Chairman Reince Priebus of the RNC is next as we continue.
Welcome home.
Welcome back to Hannity, the site of the vice presidential debate, as we continue from Spin Alley. And joining us now, the chairman of the RNC, Reince Priebus. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great tonight, Sean. Mike was awesome.
Luntz did a focus group, 22-4. That's a big win.
Yeah, it was a big win. He effectively prosecuted the case for Donald Trump and really laid out the case why Hillary Clinton's just been a total train wreck and everything that she's touched. And, you know, the fact that he was able to do that tonight was great, and we're looking forward to it for a good few days.
All right, why the talking points before the debate that Mike won?
I don't even know
ended up winning.
about it. Hey, but you know, we're so confident that he'd win that I'm not sure about that. But certainly he did a great job, and I thought that, you know, Tim Kaine was caught flat-footed on a few things like the Clinton Foundation, the email scandal. I mean, all the things that make her so unqualified to be president of the United States.
You know, one of the things I liked about the debate is very substantive. I was a little surprised at Kaine's style, which was constant, nonstop, irritating interruption.
Yeah, it was something else. And I was in a debate hall, so I haven't yet been able to look at it how everyone at home has seen it. But even just sitting there, it was unbelievable, the interruptions and the constant talking over Mike Pence. But he was cool as a cucumber. I think he did a great job. And I think it was important for the American people to be reminded that it was Hillary Clinton that, number one, everything that she's done, back from when Bill Clinton was Attorney General, to governor, to president, when she was First Lady, to when she was a senator, every single thing she touched turned to scandal. Everything from Whitewater on all the way now to the email scandal, it was a mess, and she can't be trusted.
The one thing that I noticed when you look at the two debates is you got the Democrats seem just fixated on dumping the kitchen sink with their litany of robotic, memorized lines about Donald Trump and what he said. But they don't seem to really want to talk about their tax plan to raise taxes, raise spending. The last president has accumulated more debt by the time he leaves office than every other president before him combined.
Or the fact that this litany, as you say, of attacks that they memorize. You know, it's amazing they can memorize all these things. But when the FBI asked Hillary Clinton 39 times whether she remembered things that actually mattered, right? She said, I don't recall. She couldn't recall whether she was trained. She couldn't recall anything about things that had to do with her job as Secretary of State. Not to mention the fact that when she did do her job as Secretary of State, it was a mess. The Russian reset, Libya, Benghazi, ISIS that is growing out of control. On whose watch did this happen? Hillary Clinton's watch. And she has to answer for that. And Tim Kaine was prosecuted with that case tonight. He had nothing to say about it.
You know, it was pretty interesting. I thought we got more substance in this debate. We did talk about immigration. We did talk about the wall. We did talk about comprehensive reform, what they want, and Donald Trump's plan. We talked about vetting refugees. A lot of time spent on Iran, a lot of time spent on Putin, a lot of time spent on foreign policy. It seems when it goes substance, they can't defend the economic record of the last 8 years or the foreign policy record.
Well, they can't defend the fact that she was the one in the unique position to actually solve these problems as Secretary of State. Who out there watching this has been Secretary of State? There might be, maybe 4 or 5 of them out there. That's it. The rest of us, we weren't in the position that Hillary Clinton was in. She had the chance, and she failed. I mean, that is the number one reason why she cannot be possibly promoted to President of the United States.
Let's look forward to Sunday night and Donald Trump versus Hillary, round 2. What advice would you give him?
My advice would be always pivot back. I mean, I'd pivot back to Hillary, explain to the American people the things that she didn't do, and she had the chance. I think he did a great job at the debate last week. I think he's going to come even more prepared and more ready to go because, it's been another, it was going to be 10 days now since the last debate. He's going to have that opportunity. And you get the chance to feel what that feels like on that stage. As a person who's never run for office before, he's going to come back. I think he's going to do great.
And definitely doesn't have to answer her questions about his taxes, especially she's somebody that gave a lot of speeches to a lot of special interests and a lot of Wall Street firms and a lot of insurance companies. Why won't she release? I haven't heard in either debate. Why don't they ask for the release of those speeches?
Well, the release of the speeches, but also, what about this fundamental question? How in the world did she make all this money? I mean, here they are, their entire lives on the backs of taxpayers. They've made $200 million giving speeches, selling her role as Secretary of State across the world, taking money in from foreign countries, making hundreds of millions of dollars, giving speeches to our students that are paying too much in college. And he has to answer a question as far as why he had a tax loss in 1995 and carried it over and built a multi-billion-dollar business. He's the private citizen.
What do you think? Because it seemed like Donald Trump, after the controversy, went rock solid, on message, stayed on message. The polls all came around. Then the Alicia Machado issue came up and the tweets at 3:30 in the morning. What advice do you have for him on this? Does it get in the way of the message that Mike Pence was bringing tonight, which was substance on all of these big issues: the economy, foreign policy, immigration, health care, all of these things, education.
Well, one thing, he's an incredibly hard worker, and he's someone that's never run for office before. And sometimes, like people in politics all the time, they can just sit here and take these accusations, and, I get pounded every day.
I wouldn't want your job.
No, most people don't want my job,
especially during the primary.
It's very hard to ignore criticism, and it's not a criticism. It's just that
it's an attack. She's attacking him. She wants him to respond like Alka-Seltzer in water.
What I'm saying is it's not a criticism to want to respond. When you're getting attacked, if you've never run for office before and someone's attacking you out of nowhere, it's a tough thing to take. I can remember the first time I ran for office. Remember the first letter to the editor in the Kenosha News. I thought my whole world was coming apart. Well, now I can, that's like 100 a day now.
Want to know what the first review of Hannity and Combs said? That Alan Combs looks funereal and Hannity has a bad haircut and shouldn't be on TV.
Well, you got great hair. So one thing you got going for you is good hair.
It's real, too, like Trump's. Well, anyway, so we really appreciate you being with us, and thanks so much. You got 35 days to go. You're predicting victory, and how's the ground game? Last question.
I think it's going great. I mean, we're ahead. We're doing well in voter registration, early vote. But look, this is coming down to the wire, and we're going to keep working hard.
All right, Reince Priebus, chairman of the RNC. Good to see you. Thanks so much for being with us. All right, we're in the spin room. We have just concluded our night here because this was a pretty feisty vice presidential debate. We'll have more highlights, of course, on the program tomorrow. Thanks for being with us. And from Virginia, we'll see you back here tomorrow night. Thanks for being with us.